Okay, so I was FaceTiming with the owner of this car. It was, just kind of start over. It's 2005 Land Cruiser, a couple 100,000 miles, I think. I still got to look. First time I had it running. It was towed to me, a shop over on the other side of town, put in a timing belt and it started knocking and then quit running. We figured he timed it wrong. Got a belt off a notch or something. It was actually quite a bit worse than that. They were going to replace the engine and I told them, bring it over, let me take a look. I said, I don't think you blew it. These are considered interference engines, but I think this is kind of another case where we're saying it's not. What happened was the mechanic didn't use a torque wrench. He didn't tighten a lot of bolts. He was sloppy. And he did the cam seals and he left a cam loose. He didn't torque it down and it sheared the pin. It's called the knock pin that centers that clocks the cam sprocket to the cam. So the torque of the engine held back the cam, and as the crank turned the belt, it sheared the sprocket spun and sheared the knock pin, and which changed the clocking on the cam. And we had zero compression on bank 2, but we had compression, well, it was 170 cold on bank 1, but it had a lot of fuel in it filling up the cylinders. After it settled down, I got 150, very even. Did a leak down test and found out, because when I got zero compression on a whole bank, I'm like, oh, they bent the valves. After a leak down test, I determined it was not. We were getting 10-20% leak down. One cylinder was 35%. I did scope the cylinder. It was scored, so I do believe that's a compression ring. 35% is still acceptable. It's in the green. So I reconditioned it. In the iMud forum, had a member, had a cam, and he gave it to me. Because you cannot buy that knock pin, so I had to drill it out, pressed in took out the knock pin of the one from the cam he gave me and pressed it in rather than having to replace the cam, and redid the timing belt job. I found a lot of errors in it. There was some water leaks and other issues with the type of sealants that they used. Corrected all that, got her all back together, cleaned out the throttle body. It was blowing stuff right up through the throttle body. He had put 44K in the gas, and it was just dumping the fuel in the cylinders and throwing it right back up through the intake manifold out the throttle body. Because the timing was so off, it was out of compression. On the compression stroke, it was still full of fuel and just blowing out of there. The engine has a lot of fuel in the oil. We're going to get that taken care of next. The plugs were totally fouled out. They were old anyway. We replaced them. Fired it up and it just smoked like crazy, which I kind of thought it might. It did more than I thought. I mean, it was bad. Luckily, it's warm enough I can have my garage door open today. But it filled the whole neighborhood. It's like seafoam fogging. But it sounds like it's running good. The temperature used to run low at about 1/3 up. The gauge is dead on. I'm going to go run my scans on the engine and everything, test drive it, run it up. My biggest concern now is any damage from the rings from washing the cylinders out so badly with gas as it was running and after. And more so, I'm concerned about the catalytic converters, but I think we're okay. I think we saved this one. Anyway, it was quite a task. It was a long project. I spent about 40 hours on it. Might have been easier to do an engine, but diagnosing it, getting it, and then correcting all the issues was interesting. I like challenges, and this was a challenge. Sayonara.